Hey guys, so in the last video I said we only have half of what that entertainment reporter Lee Jin-ho got his hands on in terms of the evidence dump that was sent to the court on Friday, Korea time. Well, apparently over the weekend, he got harassed by Min Hee-jin's lawyers. Yeah, you know, the ones that look so shameful at the press conference while she was giving her fake tears. Well, they intimidated him and he didn't give that much of an update. So he's probably checking in to see like, okay, if I go forward with this, you know, what can I do? But he did give some juicy morsels that are pretty good. And I wanted to also go over today what actually matters. Like, what is the legal fight versus the actual fight in the court of public opinion, which it looks like Min Hee-jin is now beginning to lose. The tide has turned because, no offense to new jeans, but mama got you some knockoff jeans. So HYBE is fighting two legal battles right now, along with the whole battle in the court of public opinion. But you can tell that they are focusing on the actual process and the order of importance. The first priority is essentially to get Min Hee-jin out of the building, to have her no longer occupy her position as the CEO of Adore. And Adore, of course, is the sub-label that was created to make new jeans, and then she is the head of it, and she has about an 18.5% ownership stake in Adore. Not HYBE, but in Adore. So the first thing that HYBE tried to do was to get her to resign, saying like, please resign, you are all sorts of shady, we don't want you here anymore. She wouldn't resign, even though she's saying like, oh, I've been so mistreated at HYBE, and that's why I entertained these fantasies of leaving. It wasn't because I was trying to take the company, it was just I was fed up and frustrated. So she was fantasizing like literally like all the time in intricate detail with financial projections, flow charts, presentations, who knows what else in the data that was obtained by HYBE. Very elaborate follow-up to an imagination, but yet she doesn't want to leave. Of course, because her staying there still gives her some authority, power, and a platform to be able to wage this war against HYBE on. She wasn't done yet, okay? It was still in the oven, and then they found out that she was cooking something, and she's just like, well, I gotta wait until, you know, my timer goes off. So HYBE is trying to now fire Min Hee-jin legally through the proper channels, which would be to open up a board meeting of Adore, and with its 80% ownership rights, just fire her and replace her and her team with already a new hand-picked set of successors. Min Hee-jin tried to block that in court, and on Friday that was supposed to be what many people thought of as a decision, because the board meeting is May 31st, so they got to decide soon. But the judge said, we'll give you another week to submit more evidence, and that they would make the decision on whether Min Hee-jin can block HYBE from voting at the shareholder meeting of Adore on the 31st. So we're seeing overlapping, but I think two distinct stages of the legal strategy. The first is to make sure that grounds for dismissal is legit and clear. And so a lot of these crazy antics, I would say, of Min Hee-jin, and the ones where she is more plotting rather than actual having proof of her executing the plot, even though I bet it's out there, that I think can be enough for her to be fired. But the whole breach of trust in order to cancel her ownership rights, I think is at a higher standard. So that legal argument is gonna look a lot different from the argument to fire her, and both of those things look so much more technical and different from the court of public opinion battle that she's waging and that HYBE has just been dragged into. The reason I bring that up is that we have to focus on what really matters now in terms of the legal fight. Yes, it's fun to talk about all the crazy antics she is up to, and we are going to go into how there is just more and more people now recognizing how much of a knockoff creation she made with New Jeans, in particular that group in Mexico that was called Jeans, with a very similar font, very similar vibes, some very similar makeup. It's almost as if they're on two different planets, HYBE and Min Hee-jin. Min Hee-jin is doing all of the vocal narrative, victim, woe is me, I am a mother, like I've been mistreated, they're copying me. And HYBE is just talking about, like, did you meet with the investors, or are you leaking trade secrets? Are you engaged in embezzlement and breach of trust? So it's a much more technical argument, but that's the actual fight that would be able to create a series of dominoes that would force Min Hee-jin from her position. Now, the biggest challenge I think that HYBE is having, and perhaps the biggest problem, is the difference between plotting and actually doing something wrong. So the reason why it seems HYBE is having a tougher time is that the law is set up, for better or for worse, but it's supposed to be for our better, that people aren't just jailed or punished unnecessarily. And in a way, this is supposed to protect the innocent, but the way that it's manipulated these days, it seems like it sure protects the guilty. But if we're looking at this situation in its pure form, you don't want to, let's say Min Hee-jin is an angel, and an angel with an active imagination, an angel with a very vindictive active imagination. But should she go to jail for her imagination? Should she even go to jail for voicing her thoughts, or even joking about her thoughts in a very technical manner that looks like a plot? And so just because you have that idea or that kind of talk about taking over a company, or escaping with New Jeans and doing all this kind of breach of stuff that she's not supposed to do, should she get in trouble for just the plotting? Now, if it's a case where you're about to off somebody, in most societies and in most law forms around the world, even planning a murder can get you into serious trouble. You don't even have to do it. So depending on what your legal system says, what would trigger that, what would be over the line, would probably be different. But I think in general, people, as humans, see that as a threat where you're willing to be a little bit more trigger happy in terms of activating the law. If somebody is hatching a whole plot to do something horrible like that to somebody, then even the planning would get you into trouble. But in the case of stealing a girl group, maybe it seems like it's definitely a similar mindset, but under the law, depending on what country you're at, or whether your country has even created something specific that applies to that, it may not be triggered. So I think this is the challenge on the side of HYBE, because they have a ton of evidence of her plotting, planning, and making very concrete steps. And where they are able to, and they do have evidence of her actually doing, but because it was a little bit early on in the timeline, because she even gave the timeline of her sabotage attempt, and to make a door an empty shell, and then this whole plot to basically steal, essentially just steal, right? Because it was early on when they started to do an audit and then investigate and stuff like that, they have, I think, less evidence than it would than an easy case would be, in terms of having evidence of her actions of enacting the plot. That's why there's so much of this emphasis on, did you meet the investors? Because apparently that part, that can start triggering things, and they want to be able to present the evidence where, yes, this is the plan, and we have a lot of the evidence of the plan, but they have to have actual things that she's done that violate the law for that to start to cross. So in the worst case scenario for HYBE, it would just only be like a bunch of talk, and then if the judge kind of believes Min Hee-jin's side that this is just a fantasy, this is just a joke, this is just, chit chat, these investor meetings were not investor meetings, they were meetings with friends, it just happened so randomly. So that's what she's trying to do, is to minimize any kind of dirt that HYBE has on her actions, to turn it into she has an active imagination, so she's probably even trying to turn reality into her imagined reality, and try to get all of us to believe that her actions to steal were it's just a fantasy. So she fantasizes about stealing, okay? So she's trying to argue that just a fantasy of stealing is not a crime itself. So this is where we're at. This is where HYBE's legal team is at, and this is why, yes, it is good to talk about all the knockoffication that's going on, but in order for HYBE to really win, they really have to find this evidence of what actually starts to trigger the law. All right, so some of the things that we've covered, to remind you, because we need to go over what is important, not is what is emotional. So the investor meeting. So she said in her press conference, come and bring those investors. Who are these supposed investors that you're saying I met with? I didn't meet with anybody. So HYBE said, okay, here's a taste of some of the evidence we have. Yes, it's Naver, Tunamu. You met with them, and not only did you meet with them, the people from that, whoever you met at that meeting about investing into Adore, they were concerned that they reported it to our investor relations team at HYBE so that they wouldn't get in trouble down the line, because they can kind of see she's hatching a plot, and if this goes sideways and we're involved, they're going to get in trouble. They would probably lose their jobs. So they reported it to HYBE, but she said, this was just a dinner with a friend, and it was just we had no idea that this person would even show up. The Project 1945, the smear campaign against HYBE. She said, that was just a joke. That's how we joke. I don't know about you. Who does that? So this is the thing. I don't know about you. Who does that? That is important to talk about, but is it illegal? That's the problem. That's when you see dang, she is so guilty, but how did she get not guilty? It's those types of things. So if you keep focusing on who would do that, and that doesn't make sense, you have to focus more on keep going to find the evidence where it actually triggers laws. So leaking trade secrets, that's important. Even though she says she denies it, that they may be able to find more actual documented evidence. If it's phone calls and stuff, that's a little bit tough. But if she sent over reports, and that's the accusation, that's probably the kind of smoking gun, one of the smoking guns that HYBE has that they haven't really publicized that much, and also it just doesn't play well to the public. It's a little bit boring. It's oh my god, it's smoking gun in the format of a PDF attachment, to an email. But that is a big thing. So if the vice president that came from the whole financial management team over at HYBE brought over some documents and sent it over to investors, and they have the email trail of that I think is extremely damning on against Min Hee-jin and her minions. But to the public, it's just kind of he sent an email? what we want to talk about Eyelet copying the hairstyle and the makeup, the blush makeup of New Jeans. The embezzlement by the stylist, that's also something that could be important for HYBE's side, although I think I would put that in a medium bucket because it's not the main thing of it, it's not the crux, it's not the main dish of her trying to steal the company with, investor funds. It's probably important for the first step of firing her and also showing that she has mismanagement and she is she made some very bad financial boo-boos. Then of course there's the issue of mismanagement, but that basically depends on what Korean law already stipulates, what counts as mismanagement and how much of it, can be applied in this situation that leads to a result that HYBE actually wants. Not just kind of, oh, yeah, wow, hearing everything that she's done, she does not know how to be a CEO and she has mismanaged the company. Yeah, but is it to a point where she would A, get fired, and then B, have her ownership stock options canceled? Because that's the biggest goal for HYBE. The ultimate middle finger is, and not in lace, honey, stark, just skin to skin, boom, is basically like, we're going to cancel your stock options because you really have violated all these terms and all the evidence shows that you have. And then she's walks out the door. She wanted to walk out the door with her company Adore at a fire sale price, ruin the reputation and ability for HYBE to function as a multi-label system and have New Jeans. But instead, she's gonna walk out with nothing. But again, the very important part for HYBE is to find evidence, and it may definitely be possible that they have a lot of evidence that they haven't showed us. They probably have a lot of evidence that they didn't even share with the YouTuber. So that YouTuber says that he directly got the evidence that HYBE wanted to share to him. And then when he made the screenshots, he just made it in the style. So like, because people are, this whole situation, people are more interested in makeup and hair and like choreography. So at least he, put the text, because it's just all in one line, very boring looking, like in the actual court document. So it's from Kakao Talk. So he put it in a Kakao Talk graphic. He spent time doing that for our benefit, for our fun. And so even he hasn't released half of the stuff he has, and who knows how much HYBE's legal team actually gave him. Of course they didn't give him 100%. So there's probably a lot of information, a lot of evidence that we don't have that would basically mean that Kim and Jung and their team have a stronger case against Min Hee-jin than we're aware of. Because even with the Friday dump of evidence, people are just like, oh, there's a lot of evidence. Oh, she's shady. Oh, yeah, we don't like her anymore. And then I think they really need to, try to find the trail of money. So who paid, like, where, I am almost convinced that there has been a paid media campaign against HYBE from her camp. It just obviously looks that way. So follow that trail of money. That's where I think they also need to have the power of the criminal investigation, because then you can start requesting financial documents. Who paid for the funeral wreaths? I think that one is a little bit easier to find, because I think those people, that might be a little bit more of a weaker link. So find out who paid for those anti-HYBE funeral wreaths, that creepy group. And even the financial analysts or services, I think they can probably follow up definitely an email trail there. She may not have paid for these services, but I think once you follow more of a money chain, it becomes a little bit clearer, much easier, and easier to convince other people to communicate the full picture instead of these other technical legal jargons that make people just get ADHD, and they're just like, wait a minute, but like, oh, we want to talk about jeans in Mexico. So let's talk about jeans in Mexico, okay? Jeans in Mexico. That is a Mexican girl group that rose to fame in late 1996. This is from their artist profile because they are still under management and performing. So this is like a late 90s, it was started in 1994, and then it got famous in 1996, and it was like a teen, girl group. Like that whole era, every country, it seemed like, had that teen group, boy group or girl group, and they were called Jeans. They rebranded themselves to JNS, but they performed as Jeans a lot, and everyone's saying like, wow, so similar. Like the choreography seems similar. Like the things that Min Hee-jin would care about are similar. She don't care about the music, right? She don't care about the music as much, although there's also lots of reports where like the music is even copied or very similar. But she likes the visual branding and the brand identity, and then how you can monetize that. And so when you look at Jeans from Mexico, it looks very much like New Jeans from Korea. So I hope there's a real salty member of Jeans as well, because they were little teenagers back in the mid to late 90s. Now they are full-grown adults who could probably cut someone, and I hope there's a real salty one there too. Like I'm hoping, like, Shack Attack, Mouthful of Marmite, Mexican Jeans, maybe Pica Limon, Limon 7, definitely something with tajin. I mean, you try tajin? I mean, I've only recently gotten into it. It is like pepper, lime, so good. And then you can put it on mangoes and stuff. I'm just gonna lick it. But tajin, not spicy or salty enough in terms of what we need in terms of a clap back. I want a clap. I want a pica limon clap back. So there are also other creepy style references as well. And yes, we know that even from her SM days, Min Hee-jin has always had this very controversial, very much either crossing the line or very close to it, this whole like Lolita type of child, I'll just call it a PDF file kind of accusations against her. And people were able to find style references from the music videos to Mustang, a film from 2015. And the logline is, when 5 orphan girls are seen innocently playing with boys on a beach, their scandalized conservative guardians confine them while forced marriages are arranged. And then also the one that's even more disturbing is this reference, a lot of visual references and kind of the storyline reference to their music videos from Christiane F., a film from 1981. A teen girl in 1970s Berlin becomes addicted to heroin. Everything in her life slowly begins to distort and disappear as she befriends a small crew of junkies and falls in love with a drug-abusing male hooker, prostitute, something like that. So you see that it's beyond a Lolita thing, like a really troubled Lolita, young girls losing innocence, ending in tragedy. Is this the type of artistic influence and type of mindset of a leader, a mother of New Jeans? So obviously we saw why they had to call it New Jeans, because there is a Jeans, but now we're seeing all of the evidence that, girl, they're wearing knockoff jeans. So what do you guys think of them knockoff jeans, and how are we going to get them back into the good graces of the K-pop world? Leave your comments below, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.